First contact and defiance. The vast emptiness of space stretched before the UE's Andromeda stars, glittering like distant beacons in the darkness. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display hovering above the central console. The ship had been exploring the farthest reaches of charted space for 3 months now, pushing the boundaries of human expansion further into the unknown. Captain, we're detecting unusual energy signatures at coordinates 247 to 8932. Lieutenant Raj Patil announced, his fingers dancing across his console. They don't match any known human technology. Maya straightened, rushing a strand of her short black hair behind her ear. Put it on the main display. The hologram shifted, revealing a strange warping of space, approximately half a light-year away. The energy patterns pulsed, in a rhythmic sequence that seemed almost artificial in its precision. Precision. Is it a natural phenomenon? Maya asked, leaning forward. Science officer Dr. Elisa Wong shook her head. Not likely, Captain. The patterns are too regular, too controlled. If I had to guess, I'd say we're looking at some kind of spatial boundary marker. A border. Maya raised an eyebrow. Out here, humanity had expanded rapidly into space over the last century, but they had yet to encounter any other spacefaring civilizations. There had been theories of coarse ruins on distant planets, strange signals from the void, but nothing concrete. Nothing like this. Shall we approach? Captain Navigator Sarah Johnson asked, her hand hovering over the controls. Maya considered for a moment. Her orders were to explore, to push the boundaries of human knowledge. If this was indeed a border of some kind, what lay beyond it? Take us in slow approach. Keep sensors at maximum range and shields up as a precaution. The Andromeda moved forward, its fusion drags glowing the soft blue against the blackness of space. As they neared the energy distortion, the ship's sensors began picking up more details. Captain, I'm detecting ships on the other side of the boundary, Rag reported, his voice tense. Multiple vessels, significantly larger than the Andromeda. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. First contact, after centuries of searching the stars. Humanity might finally have found neighbors in the cosmic wilderness. Are they moving toward us? Yes, ma'am. 3 vessels have altered course to intercept their speed. Suggests advanced propulsion technology. Maya nodded, keeping her expression calm, despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. All hands to alert status. Open a channel on all frequencies, and prepare first contact protocols. The bridge crew move with efficient precision, each member trained for this moment. Despite its unlikelihood, the Andromeda was primarily an exploration vessel, but like all ships in the United Earth Fleet, it carried defensive capabilities. Channel open, Captain. Communications, Officer Leeway announced. Maya straightened her uniform and stepped into the center of the bridge. This is Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth ship Andromeda. We are an exploration vessel from Earth, approaching in peace. We seek communication and mutual understanding. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then the main screen flashed, and an alien face appeared. The being had elongated features, with pale green skin that seemed almost translucent. Its eyes were large and entirely black, lacking visible pupils. A ridge of small bone-like protrusions ran from the top of its head down to where a human nose would be, and its mouth was a thin line that barely moved as it spoke. Human vessel, the alien said in perfect English, making Maya's eyes widen in surprise. You have violated the sovereign territory of the Galactic HFY. This sector has been under HFY control for 12 stellar cycles. Your presence is unauthorized and illegal. Maya maintained her composure, though questions raced through her mind. How did they know English? How long had they been observing humanity? We apologize for any inadvertent violation, she replied diplomatically. We were unaware of your presence or your territorial claims. We are explorers, seeking peaceful contact with other civilizations. The alien's expression remained unchanged, but something in its posture seemed to stiffen. The hegemony has been aware of your species for some time. Your primitive technological development did not warrant formal contact until now. You have remained within your designated developmental zone. Maya felt a flash of indignation at the dismissive tone, but she kept her voice level. We would be interested in establishing diplomatic relations with the HFY. Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting. That will not be necessary, the alien replied. You will return to your developmental zone, Ahmed immediately. The hegemony does not negotiate with lesser species. You have one standard: rotation to comply or mange. Your vessel will be destroyed, as a warning to others of your kind. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Well, Maya said after a moment, that was rather rude. A nervous chuckle rippled through the bridge. Crew breaking some of the tension. Captain, the alien vessels are maintaining position approximately 50,000 kilometers from our current location. Raj reported their weapon systems appear to be active, but not locked on us yet. Maya nodded, her mind racing. Dr. Wong, what can you tell me about their technology? Based on sensor readings, Elisa studied her console, brow furrowed in concentration. Their energy signatures suggest a propulsion system similar to our gravitic drive, but more refined. Their hulls appear to be composed of a crystalline alloy we haven't encountered before. As for weapons, it's hard to say. They're certainly armed, but I can't determine the exact nature of their offensive capabilities. Captain Sarah interjected. I've been analyzing their movement patterns. They're precise, almost predictable. Their formation hasn't varied since they approached us. Maya raised an eyebrow. Predictable? Yes, man. It's as if they're following a standard protocol without adaptation. Maya began to pace the bridge. Considering their options, protocol dictated that they should retreat and report the encounter to Earth Command. But something about the aliens' dismissive attitude rankled her. They'd been watching us, she mewed aloud, keeping us in a developmental zone, like animals in a zoo. And now they expect us to scurry away of the first sign of displeasure. They did threaten to destroy us, Lai pointed out nervously. Maya smiled, a gleam in her eye that her crew had come to recognize, and sometimes fear. Yes, they did. Very loudly and clearly, in perfect English, almost as if they wanted to make absolutely sure we understood the threat. She turned to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Parker. If they wanted to destroy us, could they have done so already? Lieutenant Emma. Parker considered the question based on their positioning and the energy readings from their vessels. I believe they could have attacked immediately, if that was their primary objective. So they're posturing, Maya concluded, trying to intimidate us into retreat without actually risking conflict. Or they're giving us a chance to comply with their laws, Elisa suggested cautiously. Maya nodded. Perhaps. Either way, I don't think they know as much about humans as they'd like us to believe. She tapped her comm badge. Engineering. This is the captain. How quickly can you modify our sensor array to emit a focused TAC impulse? Chief Engineer Victor Petrov's gruff voice came through the speaker. A TAC impulse. What for, Captain? A little experiment, Chief. I want to probe their shields without appearing directly aggressive. There was a pause. Give me 30 minutes, Captain. You have 15, Maya replied, closing the channel. She turned to her crew. Here's what we're going to do. Lieutenant Parker, prepare a series of micro-jumps, random pattern, to be executed on my command. Dr. Wong, I want a complete analysis of their shield harmonics. As soon as the TAC impulse makes contact, Lieutenant Patel, monitor their communications frequencies for any internal chatter. Our encounter might have generated, Captain, Lai said hesitantly. Are you sure this is wise? We're significantly outgunned. Maya's expression softened slightly. I understand your concern, Lai. But think about what just happened. An advanced alien civilization has been watching humanity, containing us without our knowledge. They've decided our fate, without consultation or respect. If we retreat now, we establish a precedent that humans can be frightened into compliance with a single threat. She looked around at her crew, meeting each person's eyes. I'm not suggesting we fight a war. We can't win. But I am suggesting that we show these Hemini representatives that humans don't scare easily, and we don't accept arbitrary limitations on our growth. If they've been watching us, they should know that already. 15 minutes later, the Andromeda executed its plan. The Takian pulse, harmless but informative, washed over the Hemini vessels before they could respond. The human ship performed a series of short, unpredictable jumps, appearing at different coordinates around the alien formation. Their shields are adapting, Dr. Wong reported excitedly. But I've got what we need. Their shield frequencies operate on a predictable mathematical progression. They're transmitting again, Lai announced. The alien face reappeared on screen. Black eyes now narrowed in what Maya interpreted as anger. Your provocative actions will not be tolerated. This is your final warning. Maya smiled pleasantly. I apologize for any misunderstanding. We were merely conducting standard exploratory maneuvers to better understand our environment. It's a human characteristic. Curiosity sometimes. It gets the better of us. The alien seemed momentarily taken aback by her casual response. Your primitive displays do not impress the Emini. You will depart immediately. Actually, Maya replied, leaning forward. I've been thinking about your earlier statement. You mentioned that the Theani doesn't negotiate with lesser species. That implies you do negotiate with species you consider equals. I'm curious, what criteria do you use to determine a species status? The alien's mouth twitched in what might have been surprise. This discussion is irrelevant. Comply or face destruction. It seems quite relevant to me, Mai countered. After all, if we're going to establish a long-term relationship between humanity and the Agony, understanding your social hierarchy is important. There will be no relationship, the alien stated flatly. Maya's smile. Widened. I think you'll find that humans are rather persistent when it comes to making new friends. In fact, I'd like to propose a meeting between your representatives in line, perhaps aboard your vessel, as a gesture of our trust. For the first time, the alien appeared genuinely confused. Its large eyes blinked rapidly, and it turned slightly, as if consulting with someone off-screen. Your behavior is unexpected. It finally said, I get that a lot. Mir replied cheerfully. Now about that meeting, the Empire's miscalculation. The interior of the Hegemony flagship was a marvel of engineering that would have sent Earth scientists into ecstasies of delight. Crystalline corridors stretched in geometric precision, bathed in a soft blue light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Captain Maya Chen walked with confident strides, flanked by two of her officers, Dr. Elisa Wong and Lieutenant Emma Parker, and surrounded by a contingent of Hegemony guards. The aliens, who had identified themselves as the V, moved with a fluid grace. The Delhi, their tall, slender frames, their translucent skin, revealed shadowy outlines of complex internal organs. Unlike any terrestrial biology, Maya found herself fascinated by the subtle variations in their ridge patterns, apparently an indicator of rank within their rigid social hierarchy. Your vessel will remain under surveillance during these discussions, stated their escort of RX, who had introduced himself as sub-commander next fall. Any attempted communications or movements will result in immediate termination of this meeting. Understood, Maya replied pleasantly, though I assure you my crew has strict orders to behave themselves. What she didn't mention was that those orders included a specific contingency plan that had been rapidly developed during the 4 hours it had taken for the Hegemony to decide whether to accept her proposal for a meeting. They were led into a vast chamber, dominated by a circular platform, surrounded by tiered seating. Mai recognized the setup immediately. This was not a meeting room, but a judgment hall. The Hegemony had no intention of negotiating. They meant to deliver a formal censure at the highest tier, Sataverses, whose head ridges were adorned with metallic ornaments that caught and refracted the light. Beside this figure sat several others, with similarly decorated, but less elaborate ridges. The High Executive will now address the human delegation next fall, announced Justice Din for Maya, and her officers to stand on the central platform. Maya complied, but rather than adopting the submissive posture the Va clearly expected, she stood tall, hands clasped behind her back, in a relaxed military stance. The High Executor spoke, his voice deeper and more resonant than the other Vax they had encountered. Captain Maya, Chin of Earth, you stand before the Judgment Council of the Galactic Hemini. For 12 stellar cycles the Gemini has maintained order among the stars. Lesser species are permitted development within controlled parameters to prevent chaos and destructive expansion. Maya listened politely, noting the way the High Executive emphasized certain words. The subtle shift in his posture when he mentioned controlled parameters. The VS were revealing more than they realized. With every statement, humanity has been designated a Category 3 developmental species. The High Executor continued. Your technological advancement is monitored to ensure it does not disrupt the greater galactic balance. Your presence beyond your designated zone is a violation of Hegemony Directive 5291. I see, Maya said when he paused. And may I ask when this designation was decided? And by whom? The high executive blinked. Those large black eyes. Narrowing slightly, the designation was established 400 stellar cycles ago by the Classification Council, CCIL, following standard observational protocols. 400 years may. Amused, that would be around the time of our Industrial Revolution. Then interesting timing. She took a step forward, causing the guards to tense. High Executive, I appreciate your willingness to meet with us. However, I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity's current status. She gestured to Dr. Wong, who produced a small holographic project before the guards could intervene. Wong activated it, displaying a complex three-dimensional model of what appeared to be the V flagship. This is a reconstruction of your vessel's internal structure, based on passive scans we conducted during our approach, Macia explained conversationally, as if she were discussing the weather, rather than revealing capabilities that clearly shocked the assembled fracks we've identified. Your primary power distribution nodes, propulsion systems, and what we believe to be your central computational nexus. The chamber erupted in hisses and clicking sounds as the V-counselors conferred frantically with each other. The high executive raised a six-fingered hand. Restoring order, such scanning would be impossible with your level of technology, he stated, though his tone held a note of uncertainty. Maya smiled. Perhaps by your estimation of our technology, yes, but humans have a peculiar trait. We tend to develop unevenly. While we might lag behind in some areas, we often surge ahead unexpectedly in others. She nodded to Lieutenant Parker, who stepped forward. We've also analyzed your shield harmonics, Parker stated, her voice clear and professional. They operate on a predictable mathematical sequence that cycles every 3.7 seconds. With the right timing, a focused energy burst could create a momentary window. In your defense, this was in fact a calculated bluff. The Andromeda sensors had detected the cycling pattern, but they were far from being able to exploit it effectively. However, the reactions of the V-counselors, their rapid blinking, and the way several reached for communication devices told Maya that her officers had hit uncomfortably close to the truth. Is this a threat? The high executive demanded, rising from his seat. Maya kept her expression mild. Not at all. It's an exchange of information between potential allies. You've been studying us for centuries. It seems only fair that we share some observations of our own. She paused, letting the tension build before continuing. High Executive, the hegemony has clearly established an impressive interstellar civilization. We admire your achievements, however. Your assessment of humanity is based on outdated information. In the last century alone, our technological development has accelerated exponentially. As if on cue, her communication device chimed. Maya had set this up before leaving the Andromeda. Perfectly timed interruption that would add weight to her next statement. It seems our reinforcements have arrived, she said, making a show of checking the device. You see, when we realized we might have encountered an advanced civilization, we sent a quantum entanglement message to Earth. Standard procedure. You understand this was true. Though the reinforcements were still days away, the Andromeda had indeed sent a message using humanity's newest communication technology, one that the hegemony might not have known humans possessed. The high executor's composure cracked slightly. Quantum entanglement communication is a restricted technology. Category 3 species are not permitted. Yes, about that classification, Maya interrupted smoothly. I believe it requires revision. Humanity hasn't been confined to our solar system for nearly 70 years now. We have colonies on 17 extrasolar planets and mining operations in 26 star systems. She gestured around the chamber. We don't seek conflict with the hegemony. In fact, we see tremendous potential for mutual benefit through diplomatic and trade relations. But those relations must be based on mutual respect, not arbitrary restrictions based on outdated assessments. A new voice spoke from one of the lower tiers. A female VX with elaborate mathematical patterns etched into her head. Rage's high executor logic suggests we should reevaluate if the humans possess quantum entanglement, communication, and advanced scanning capabilities. They have already surpassed several Category 2 civilizations. The high executor's ridge patterns darkened in what Maya interpreted as displeasure. Counselor Tevron, this is not the appropriate forum. For actually, Maya interjected, I find Counselor Tan's perspective refreshing. Perhaps she would be an excellent lesson for establishing formal diplomatic relations between our peoples. This calculated statement had the desired effect of creating visible division among the counselors. Several nodded in agreement, while others bristled at the human presumption before the High Executor could respond. Alarms began blaring. Throughout the chamber, a VX officer hurried in, approaching the High Executor and speaking rapidly in their native language. A series of clicks, hisses, and modulated tones. Maya maintained her composed expression, though internally, she was concerned this wasn't part of her plan. The High Executor rose, his black eyes fixed on Maya. 3 vessels have emerged from faster-than-light travel. Trav, at the border of this sector. They claim to be human ships responding to a distress call from the Andromeda. Maya couldn't hide her surprise. The reinforcements shouldn't have arrived for at least another 5 days. Either Earth Command had developed even faster ships than she knew about, or someone else had been monitoring this region of space. Seizing the opportunity, she nodded, as if this were exactly what she'd expected. As I mentioned, we sent a message when we encountered Ed. Your border standard procedure. These vessels are significantly larger than yours, the High Executive stated, a note of accusation in his voice. Of course, Maya replied smoothly. The Andromeda is an explorer vessel. When potential first contact situations arise, we send more substantial ships to ensure proper diplomatic representation. This was complete improvisation, but Maya knew better than to show uncertainty. What ships had arrived they were claiming to be human, and that was enough for now. The High Executive conferred briefly with several counselors before turning back to Maya. This council will recess to assess this development. You will be escorted to a waiting area, as they were led from the chamber. Dr. Wong leaned close to Maya. Captain, what's going on? Earth couldn't possibly have responded. This quickly, I know. Maya murmured, either someone's pretending to be us, or we have friends we didn't know about. The waiting area turned out to be a luxurious but clearly monitored suite. As soon as they were alone, Maya gathered her officers' close options. She asked quietly, if those ships are hostile and masquerading as human, we could be caught in the crossfire. Lieutenant Parker pointed out. Dr. Wong nodded. On the other hand, if they are human, perhaps from a classified military program, their arrival dramatically strengthens our negotiating position. Maya considered both possibilities. I think we proceed as if they're friendly, until proven otherwise. The hegemony reaction tells me they're concerned. They didn't immediately dismiss these new arrivals as a threat. They could easily handle. 3 hours later, they were summoned back to the council chamber. The atmosphere had changed noticeably. Where before there had been dismissive arrogance, now there was cautious assessment. The High Executive spoke without preamble. Captain Chin, we have communicated with the commander of your reinforcement vessels. Their technological capabilities exceed our initial assessment of human development. The Hegemony Classification Council has been convened to reassess humanity status. Maya nodded, maintaining her diplomatic demeanor while internally celebrating this shift. We appreciate the Ajim willingness to adapt to new information. This speaks well for our future relations. The Council has granted permission for one of your reinforcement vessels to dock with this station. The High Executive continued. Their commander will join these discussions. Maya felt a flutter of anxiety. She had no idea who was about to walk through that door or what their agenda might be, but she kept her expression confident as they waited. Minutes later, the chamber doors opened, and a tall, gray-haired man in a uniform Maya didn't recognize. Stroden, his insignia, suggested high rank, but the design was unlike any United Earth Fleet uniform. She'd seen the newcomer bowed formally to the council, before turning to Maya, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Captain Chen, Admiral James Erickson, United Earth Defense Fleet. Your message was received with great interest. Maya managed to hide her confusion. There was no United Earth Defense Fleet, at least not officially, but she recognized a queek when she heard one. Admiral, she acknowledged with a crisp nod. Thank you for your prompt response. Erickson turned to address the council. High executive members of the Hegemon Council, I bring greetings from Earth. While we regret the circumstances of our first official contact, we look forward to establishing peaceful relations between our civilizations. What followed was a masterclass in diplomatic negotiation. Admiral Erickson, whoever he really was, presented data on human technological capabilities that Maya knew to be exaggerated, but not by as much. As she might have expected, he spoke of Earth's defensive capabilities, its industrial capacity, and its rapid expansion, with a calm authority that clearly impressed the V counselors. By the time the session concluded, 6 hours later, the hegemony had agreed to formal diplomatic recognition of humanity as a Category 2 civilization, with provisional rights to navigate designated trade corridors through hegemony space. As they walked toward the docking bay, where a shuttle waited to return them to the Androma, Maya finally had a moment alone with the mysterious Admiral United Earth Defense Fleet. She questioned quietly. Ericsson's smile was more genuine this time, a necessary fiction. "Captain, the ships that responded to your message aren't strictly official private vessels," Maya asked, realization dawning. "Let's just say there are elements within Earth's government that have been preparing for this day longer than the general public knows," Ericsson replied. "Your encounter created the perfect opportunity for a more substantial introduction that might otherwise have been possible." Maya considered this carefully. "You've been operating beyond official Earth space. That's how you responded so quickly. You're as perceptive as your file suggested," Ericsson said. Approvingly, "Yes. We've had outposts in this sector for nearly a decade. When your quantum message came through, we couldn't pass up the opportunity. And the hegemony, they didn't detect your operations until now." Ericsson's expression hardened slightly. The hegemony isn't as omnipotent as they'd like everyone to believe. They've grown complacent over the millennia. Their patrol patterns are predictable. Their sensor technology effective but static. They haven't faced a serious challenge in thousands of years. Maya processed this information, understanding its implications. They've been containing species. They consider threats, keeping them isolated from each other. "Precisely," Ericon nodded. "But humanity has never responded well to containment. And now, thanks to your initiative, we have official recognition and navigation rights that will make our expansion much easier." As they boarded the shuttle, Maya looked back at the massive hegemony station. What had begun as a routine exploration mission had turned into humanity's formal introduction to galactic politics. The galactic hegemony had expected humanity to cower and retreat when faced with superior technology and threats. They hadn't counted on human audacity, adaptability, and the simple fact that telling humans they couldn't do something was the sheerest way to guarantee. The last thing Maya saw before the shuttle doors closed was a group of Fra counselors watching their departure, their black eyes unreadable, but their postures suggesting uncertainty. The message was clear. The galaxy had just become a more complicated place, and humanity had announced its presence, not with fear, but with a confident smile and a handshake that wouldn't be refused. As the shuttle detached from the station, Admiral Ericsson turned to Maya. "Congratulations, Captain Chen. You've just secured humanity's place among the stars." Maya smiled. "I just did what any human would do, when told to go back to their room and be quiet." "Exactly," Ericsson replied with a knowing grin. "And that's precisely what the hegemony will never understand about us.